So I'm Olli Seppaenen. I'm not going to present too many solutions today. It's more about questions because we are just starting a new research program. So I started last year at Aalto University as a professor of practice, and my task was to... A professor of practice is basically somebody who has a PhD but does not have an academic career. So I worked 15 years in software companies doing software for construction management, and then I joined academia. And my task was to improve the industry cooperation of Aalto University. So I approached 40 companies, and I didn't have any slides to show. I just had a discussion with the CEO or the management, and what kind of problems are you interested in solving? And it turned out that all the companies are thinking maybe 5 or 10 years ahead. That's their strategy period. But they are not able to think 15 years ahead. And if you think in terms of software companies or digitalized tool providers, they need that long-term view to be able to generate the next generation of digital tools. So the hypothesis of our research was that all the digital tools of today are not very good. And in order to get to the next level of digital tools, we need to have a vision for construction industry, how we want to operate, and that started the Vision 2030 group. So out of those 40 companies, we had 11 companies who joined our consortium, and they are all putting some research money that we use to hire researchers. So we have all of these are Finnish companies, but we have general contractors, Skanska and YIT in Finland. Lipsonen is a general contractor. Hahtela is a construction manager. A-Insinöörit is a design company. SRV is a big contractor. Lemminkäinen is a big contractor. Then we have Trimble Tekla, which is of a software company. Granlund is a design company. Parma is a concrete element manufacturer. So we have a kind of different types of companies involved in the consortium. They all are funding this, so we need to find a common goal for everybody. And this is kind of what we are doing. It's not a really nice picture, but this is the extent of my graphical skills. So we have top-down approach and we have a bottom-up approach. So when we start from the top, we think not constrained by any technology we have today. We are thinking about what should we be doing in 2030? What's the big plan? What's the big goal? So we have CEOs of these 11 companies participating in this group, and they have meetings every 3 months, and they kind of think about the long term. And we are providing research data for these companies by going to interview visionaries around the world and asking, what do you think we should be doing in 15 years? We are also going to industries like shipbuilding and other related industries to see what they have done. And is there something that somebody somewhere in the world has done so far that could improve the results in Finland in the next 15 years? Because we know that Chinese are very good with robotics. In Switzerland we have a lot of robotics. Australia is big on alliances and IPD type projects. California has a lot of good practices for virtual design and construction, and then in Norway we seem to have a hotspot for lean design management. In Finland maybe logistics and production control are strong. So we have different areas with a lot of different strengths. If we go to all different areas in the world and figure out what they do best, can we combine somehow to come up with a better world? Then we also have a lot of current problems, so we have a bottom-up approach where we need to solve problems that are here and today in order to get to Vision 2030 in 15 years. So we cannot just wait until 2029 and then do one big leap and get there, but we need some kind of steps and a schedule. How are we going to move from here to there? And there we are selecting, so we proposed 14 different problems that we could look at. And we selected 2 problems to focus on in the first year. And then, of course, as a university, that is to educate the next generation. So based on all these research projects, we are teaching the engineers of the future, not engineers of the past. And then we are also, if we need to change something in the government or public entities, we have a societal impact task where we use our influence to change the laws and frameworks. So that's kind of the big picture of the Vision 2030 project. So now we have 3 projects ongoing. We have the CEO level working group and international benchmarking related to that. One of our topics is related to lean design management and scheduling, so kind of taking what our Norwegian and Californian colleagues have done and in Denmark about agile and building on top of that, trying to figure out can we get to the next step. And then the third is a software topic, not related to any technology, so it's about improving collaboration and communication in construction projects. And for this, first of all, the Vision 2030 process, we had the first workshop on the 11th of October, just a couple of weeks back. And the key themes that came is productivity improvement, improving customer satisfaction, improving the image of the industry. In Finland, the construction industry doesn't have a very good image outside the construction industry. So everybody thinks that the construction industry is providing bad quality buildings. They're always going over budget and over time. There's almost never a positive news in media about construction, so we need to change that. So the goal that we have proposed to this group, and many of the companies have already accepted this, we are now, because our consortium includes construction companies and design companies, we are most interested in the stage after the design has been defined enough that the owner knows what they want. So after that time, when the owner pushes the start button to the end, when the project is supposedly complete with no errors, can we cut that lead time by 50%? 50% time reduction. That's kind of customers' view of the productivity. Contractors can, of course, fiddle around and improve their productivity all they want, but the only thing that the customer sees is either decreased cost or decreased time. And we want to focus on time, because in lean construction approaches, we have seen that if you improve the cycle time, you will have to improve the process. If you start focusing on cost, you will focus on wrong things, like splitting the project into very small procurement packages and trying to get the cheapest price for each. That's not lean. So we want to focus on the cycle time. And we know many areas in the world where they have already been able to achieve 10 or 20% reductions. So we think that just by better implementation of existing methods that already work somewhere in the world, we will be able to get maybe halfway to the goal. And then the remaining half requires new technology, better use of digitalization, and completely new things that are to be developed. So we need to look at all the technology trends. We need to look at other industries. For example, in Finland, the shipbuilding industry has improved their cycle times already by 30%. And in ship refurbishment projects, they have improved cycle times by 70%. So there must be something there that we can learn from. So we are going to these related industries and figuring out what they have done and what's applicable to construction. And then the CEOs are responsible for making that happen in their companies. In terms of lean design management, we have seen in Finland that for safety management it was very good to have a goal of 0 incidents in safety. Even though it's kind of an ideal, kind of makes sense and everybody can see progress. So we adopted the same for lean design management in terms of goals. We want to have in fast track production the same overlap as before. So we do not give any more time for design and construction. But we want to reduce to 0 any delays in production schedule caused by design teams and design issues. 0 hurried procurement due to design issues. Then from designer's point of view, 0 redesign because something was designed without required information or decisions. 0 incorrect hurried decisions, correct level of detail for each need. Planned execution of design. So how do we plan and predict resource use? and then transparent process so that everybody knows where we are. These are kind of pretty high goals. We have set the bar high, but we are looking for different options how to make this happen, or at least get closer to this goal. So our research questions in this research are listed here. I'm not going to read them all aloud, but we are at this stage that we have defined questions that we want answers from, and we have figured out that many best practices already exist, like we have heard today about Skanska's case, Veidekkes case, Ramboll's case. So best practices that solve part of the problem already exist, and it's possible to build on those. So to answer these questions, in this fall we are traveling to different locations, so we are looking at international best practices. We already met to visit Veidekke 1 month ago, and now we are planning additional visits in the Nordic, and I'm going to spend 2 weeks in California to look at their best practices, and then I'm going to China after that to see if they have some kind of unique perspective on design. And then based on all these trips and travel and different processes, the working group consisting of all these companies is going to meet in December, and we are going to define what we are going to test in Finland. And those tests will be conducted starting in spring next year. So we will have 4 or 5 case studies where we will use the combined model that we defined with the working group. So all of those companies who pay a little bit more and are in the steering group, they will be able to have their own case studies included in this study. And then we will keep refining. Of course, we will not get it right on the first round, but we will keep adding new things and testing new ideas. And then, of course, sharing everything we learn in these kinds of forums and going back to the companies we visited and say that this is what we built on top of your stuff. Then we have improving collaboration and communication in construction projects. And there we are focusing on how do you improve trust, because trust is seen as a critical component in project delivery. So we want to look at how is trust born between stakeholders and what are the mechanisms, and how the trust can be managed during the life cycle of a collaboration. So if you, for example, companies can have some level of trust, but of course in real interactions between people, the trust is established between persons. So you're looking at is the trust of an organization somehow inherited at an individual level? And if there's no trust to the organization, can you still develop trust with an individual from that organization? Or is trust defined in the beginning of a relationship, and if the trust is lost, can it somehow be rebuilt? So this is kind of an understanding of how trust operates, and there's not enough knowledge about that topic. And then there's a kind of technology aspect to this. So what are the main challenges related to internal communication and information management? So there's a lot of information on construction projects, and we want to figure out how do we make everybody to share common understanding and common ground. Is there a digital technology solution, or is it more about processes and so on? So there we have some case study projects from companies. So we are doing interviews. We are interviewing experts in Finland, also elsewhere. So in California, we already agreed a couple of interviews related to this topic. So we are looking for individuals who have long experience in construction and who have been involved in projects with high trust and in projects with low trust. And we are trying to find what is kind of defining the trust level, what aspects there are. Because interestingly, we have found alliance or IPD projects where there was very low trust. And we have found fixed price projects with traditional contracts where there was very high trust. So the contract form alone doesn't determine trust. It can enable trust in some way, but it requires a little bit more research. And that's going to happen this fall, so we are doing all these interviews this fall, and then we will review those in the working groups and refine. But that's kind of all there is to say at this point. So I will open the floor for questions. Thank you.
Nii, küsimusi. Võib-olla ma küsin kõigepealt publiku käest, et kui paljud teist või kes on kuidagi või kaudselt seotud selle Eesti digiehituse klastriga? On siin mõni inimene? Et ma olen juba Olli käest kord juba küsinud, et oleks nõus võtma ka eestlasi enda sinna sellesse suurde tappa ja ta on sisuliselt oma nõusoleku andnud, aga kuna mul lihtsalt pole olnud aega selle digiehituse klastriga sellel teemal rääkida, siis äkki keegi lihtsalt saadaks neile sõnumi, et selline võimalus on olemas. So I was basically saying that we had a discussion about the Estonian digital construction cluster that we have, and I asked you if they could somehow participate, and you said, yes, let's have a conversation about that, yes. So I mentioned that maybe someone can deliver this message to the guys in this Estonian cluster. So
yeah, what we are looking for is we would like as many countries as possible to kind of prepare their own group that can then collaborate with the group in Finland. So we have asked Stanford University in the US that can you build your own Vision 2030 group with the US perspective. And there's a university in China who is prepared to do the same in China, and maybe we find somebody in Norway. And if this kind of idea is interesting to you, especially company participants, I think it would make sense to have a kind of national efforts which are aligned somehow, and then maybe some international collaborative workshops where we share ideas between the groups.
I agree. Et see Eesti niinimetatud digiehituse klasteri jääks üheks väikseks kornadigi projektiks, et siis oleks mõistlik, ma arvan, koostööd teha. Nii, on küsimusi? It seems like no questions as typically. Yes, so my question is, I see that when I read and listened what you were saying is that to some extent it seems like you're trying to solve all the problems of construction. Don't you think that it has become maybe too big problem to be solved?
If we had to solve it tomorrow, yes. 15 years is kind of a long time, and if we don't aim to solve everything in 15 years, I think we will get nowhere. So we have because we have 15-year horizon, we have set the goal really high, because it doesn't make sense to have a modest goal to achieve in 50 years. That's how we get this flat productivity for construction, I think.
I agree. So, if no one has any questions, we will continue to the next presentation. So, guys, the visual guys, just some patience. Meil on mõned minutid vaja aega, et siin seadmed ja asjad tööle panna ja siis võib juba ettekandega jätkata.